It's tree pruning day, and I'm really excited, and I'm going to start with my trio. This is my 3-in-1 stone fruit patch. I have 3 stone fruits here. This is a Babcock peach and a Santa Rosa plum over there, and a Flavor King pluot. So these are my stone fruits, and I'm going to be pruning them and also trying to share with you some of the things that I've learned at my most recent permaculture class, as well as my food forest permaculture class that I took last year, because they really dug into pruning and I just loved it. So I'm going to try and share with you some of the principles of it, get you up close to show you some detail work of what I'm doing, but you know, I'm not going to have you just sit there and watch me prune. I'm going to let you dig in with me to see what I'm doing. The first thing we have to do, though, is clean our pruners. It is important to clean your pruners in between each tree that you prune so that you don't spread any kind of diseases or pests or anything. And the best way to clean your pruners is with alcohol, at least 90% alcohol. So there we go. It's really easy, but it's important. And it's good to have nice sharp pruners so that you do as little damage to the tree as possible while you're pruning. Now, some of the basic principles are to look at the shape of the trees so that you can kind of tell where the sun is going to hit them, and to try and make sure that most of the branches, at least, are getting the maximum amount of sun. You also want to prune for height so that you let them grow as high as you want, or you keep them down a little bit like I'm going to do, so that I can more easily reach fruit up there when they start bearing more fruit. And so because I've got 3-in-1 right here, I am going to do what they call kind of a vase shape. As if they were all one tree, they will all kind of be like a vase shape, like this. However, each individual tree seems to have a nice leader, which is one tall branch, taller than the rest of them. And so I think I'm going to try and keep each tree to have its own tall leader, but as a group, they will kind of be in a vase shape. And you do that so that sun can get into the middle of it and take care of the branches in the middle as well. So you kind of want to not have too many in the middle, and you don't want to have a whole lot of branches that are growing up in this direction to shade all of that out. Those are a couple of the basic principles. When it comes to pruning the individual branches, I learned some really cool stuff this last weekend. So the energy in a tree and in the branches is a substance called auxin. And the auxin tends to be at the very tip, energizing the tips to grow. So when you cut off that tip, that energy has to go to the rest of the branch. And depending on where you prune the branch is where the energy goes. If you prune it all the way back, really far, all of that energy that was here is all concentrated right at that tip where you pruned it, and the little nubs right next to where you prune it are going to be encouraged to grow a whole lot. They're going to be encouraged to grow a lot the next year. If you tip it and cut it only at the very tip, you haven't cut off quite as much energy, but it encourages more of the nubs to grow. They won't grow a lot in length, but they will start growing what they call laterals, coming out from the sides of the branch. And if you cut it in the middle of that branch, it kind of goes in between, right? So it'll grow a little bit more at the tip and maybe encourage a few nubs behind it to grow. So those are a few of the basic things. Let me pull you in close and I'll show you some of the branches that I'm going to be pruning and share with you some other tips. Okay, I'm focusing in first on my Babcock peach. This one is in front of the other two because it's a little shorter so that it can get more sun. Now in this particular garden, the sun comes up from that direction in the east and comes overhead this way, which makes this the north, right by the wall. So most of the branches that are in the north on that side are not going to get as much sun, especially lower down. That's why you can see a lot of these branches are trying to go straight up so it can get into the light. So I'm going to try and help these branches to get as much light as possible. Now I'm going to focus in on the first one. This is the Babcock peach, as I said. And this branch right here, I've noticed right away because it's got kind of a funny shape to it. See, it's kind of coming down and then it's coming up. And then it's got this lateral that's going straight up. And so I'm going to prune this back to try and encourage growth to go in a little bit better directions. As you can see, I've already started putting tape on these. That's because I did a lot of my thinking before I started the video, so I wouldn't waste your time with that. But I'll try and remember what I was thinking and explain it to you. So this one, they also taught us how to tell the new year's growth, the most recent year's growth versus earlier growth. And it looks to me like this section right here of the branch is this year's growth, as well as this lateral. All of that grew this year. But I believe behind it, along here, is the previous year's growth. And so looking at just this section, I'm going to prune this one right about here. Now when I do that, these two little nubs right behind where I'm going to prune it are going to be encouraged to grow the most. And I want to look at the direction that they're going and plan for which direction they're going so that I know what's going to happen in the future. And so I can plan for it and do it right. So this little nub is going to come this way, and this one's going to come this way. Now, to me, that's a little bit better than one that's like this going straight up. That's going to create another one like this. And I don't really want that. I want it to kind of branch out like this. So that's why I decided to prune it right there. Now, as I prune it, I want to hold the pruners this way so that this part, which will kind of crush the branch a little, is on the outside on the part of the wood that I'm not going to keep. And so I prune it just like that, kind of at a little 45-degree angle. And then next year, or this spring, just in a few months, these two are going to start growing out this way. And these other laterals, hopefully they will also start thinking about growing. This branch right here, I'm going to do a similar thing. I'll take this off right here. I'm going to prune this one back to here because I don't really like that it's growing straight up. I'm going to encourage this little nub to grow out this way by pruning this just like this. Same way. Boop. Boom. There we go. Now these two sticks that I've just pruned, they're called scions. And they can be grafted into another stone fruit tree, and that way a stone fruit tree can have two different kinds of fruit. I'm going to learn a little bit more about that at my scion exchange on Saturday, which is in 2 days, and I'm hopefully going to get some scions like this to maybe graft into these trees and some of my other trees. I'm going to ask and see if I can bring my scions from my own prunings, because I think these are good. They don't have any pests or diseases because they're basically brand new. I've only gotten them this year, so I don't think they've had any time to really get any, and they look pretty healthy. But one of the rules I saw was that we should wait until they've fruited, and I can know for sure that they have a true fruit based on what it is. Because it's called a Babcock peach, and I want to make sure that it actually has Babcock peaches on it. But I think I'm just going to ask and find out. But for now, I'm going to put these aside and save them and label them what kind of fruit they are so that we know in case I can take them to the scion exchange. All right, I think you can also see this branch right here, and for similar reasons, I'm going to prune it right about here, this way, I want this one to grow out this way, so I'm gonna prune it right above that. There we go. And keep that sign up. There we go. Okay. The cuts that I just showed you on the newer growth are called heading cuts. Those are cuts that you would do in the wintertime to encourage growth. One of the other things, main things you want to do when you're pruning is to cut off dead branches or dead things. Let me see if this is going to show me. Yes. So this branch right here, it looks pretty dead to me. And when I scratch it, there's no green under there or anything. So I'm going to take this one off altogether. I'm going to cut it just like that. And that's called, wait, what's it called? A thinning cut. And a thinning cut basically takes it off and it won't grow back because I've brought it all the way back to the beginning of the stem. So it's not going to grow anymore. And I'm going to do the same thing to this one right here because this one's looking pretty dead too. This one is also growing into the middle. So even if it were alive, I probably wouldn't want it eventually. So I'm going to thin that one out. Take that one off. There we go. All right. Let's see what else we got. This branch right here is one that I'm going to cut closer to the tip because I want it to grow a little bit more. And this is the little bud right here that I want it to encourage growing. I'm going to cut that right there. But then all of these others, because I only cut off the tip, all of these others should grow at least a little bit and start growing some laterals. And each of the laterals will be able to produce fruit because I think this is in a prime position to get a lot of sun. And so this would be a really good branch to have a lot of fruit on it. Okay, so the peach tree is done. I think it is always going to be a little shorter than the other trees, and that's okay because it's in the front. So it'll always get sun and the others won't be able to shade it out. Let's see what else I can do on the next tree. Okay, moving over to my Santa Rosa plum, I wanted to share with you some other things that I learned in my pruning classes, and that is also about training a tree branches to go in a different direction. And I've used already some different methods with this Santa Rosa plum tree to try and do that. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of the branches were trying to go straight up so they could get the sun. But I don't want them to go straight up. I want them, like I said, to be more of a vase shape and to kind of shape around the central leader branch of this tree. So the first one I want to show you, you can probably see these strings that I've tied onto these, and they go down to stakes in the ground. You might be able to see that one down there. And that is to encourage these guys to grow in a slightly different direction. This one was up here further, getting really close to this branch. And so I'm trying to train it to go down and more out this way in a better angle. Same thing with this one right here, trying to get it to go out that way. And this one right here was like right up against this branch. And so I'm just pulling this one out a little bit this way to get it away from that branch. Okay, so now I'm going to show you another method that I used. You can probably see this silver bar right here. This is what they call a separator. This is an official real separator that I was given at my Santa Cruz Permaculture classes. And so I use that to put that right there, and that just does a very similar thing as doing this, and it just separates these two so that they're not so close together. And in about 6 weeks or maybe longer, this will be able to grow out on its own, and I won't have to keep this separator there or the strings. But you might also see my makeshift separators down here, because I only had the one separator, but I have lots of clothespins. So I took a couple of clothespins and used them to help separate out a couple more branches there. And I'm hoping that these methods will help the branches to stay more open like that instead of bunched up together. So thanks to those classes, I'm very excited about that, being able to do that to help my tree. By the way, those classes are by Santa Cruz Permaculture, and they are an awesome group. And they're out of Santa Cruz, and they do a great job. They know their stuff. So if you're interested in learning more, you can get in touch with them. Now I'm up here in the top of the Santa Rosa plum because I wanted to show you this is the tallest of my trees, and you can see all these little blue tapes where I plan to trim them, and I wanted just to explain a little bit to you. This branch here is the leader branch, the central leader, because it, I don't even know if you can see it all the way up there, is the very tallest one by just an inch or two taller than this one and this one. So I kind of want to keep that as the leader. And so to do that, I think I just need to keep it as the tallest. So this is the topmost cut that I'm going to make, and all the others are below that to keep this one as the leader. But you can see that I am cutting it down quite a bit because that's getting really tall, and I'm already on a 2-step stool, and I don't want to have to climb up ladders to get fruit. So I don't want it to keep growing too tall. Wrong way. Ooh. So I'm going to cut it right here and take that top off. And now these are some scions that I'll be able to see if I can exchange. And while I'm up here, I will do some of these others. That one I don't like the angle. There we go. And this one, I'm taking quite a bit off of it as well because it's out in front and is going to shade a lot of things. So I'm going to cut this one back pretty well and let it start growing from here. So I think I'm going to take this one off here and then cut this one way back to like that. Now because I cut that one branch way back, this will probably grow quite a bit anyway. So it should be good. Couple more. Let me put these down very carefully. There. And one more. There we go. Okay. So the top of that is done. Now there's one more thing I want to show you up there. Hold on just a second. All right. I hope this is in focus. Can you see that pod right there? Let's see if I can point to it. Right there. That is right up at the top of the trees, right below all the places that I cut. And I learned not long ago that that is a mantis egg pod, and I do not want to disturb it because this spring it will release a whole bunch of new praying mantises into my garden, which will be great for pest control. I've got 2 others on this tree too, and I'm making sure I do not cut anywhere below those so that I lose them. All right, now I just have my Flavor King Pluot to finish, and this is the one I'm most excited to taste its fruit. I love Flavor King Pluots. And all the principles on this one are basically the same. You can see the leader branch there in the middle going all the way up. And then it's got an extension that goes all the way up to the top, so I'm going to keep it. And I think I'm pruning it pretty close to the top there. And then the others are kind of in line with that. So if I see anything interesting while I'm doing this, I'll let you know. All right, I'm done with my trio. Hopefully you can tell at least a little bit of a difference. They're not quite as tall, and they've got some stubby looking branches now. And hopefully I've done it well enough to encourage some new growth and some fruit this year. I'd love to have some fruit, so that would be really awesome. I am going to pack up my scions and maybe show those to you and how I labeled them. Hopefully I'm right. And then maybe I will move on to my male pistachio tree and a couple of others. We'll see what I do. I just finished packing up and labeling the scions that I just pruned from the trees. My Babcock peach, my Santa Rosa plum, and my Flavor King Pluot. Obviously, I pruned the most off of the Santa Rosa plum. It was the biggest. I put them in Ziploc bags with a little moist paper towel inside to help keep them moist. And then I labeled them really well with their names, how old they were, when I planted them, and when I pruned them. Hopefully I don't need any more information than that. And then I also noted that they were Dave Wilson trees, just so that people would know that they were, familiar trees from a reputable place. So hopefully I'll be able to share these with some people on Saturday. Hey again, I'm back, and today I'm over with my male pistachio tree. And this is the one that I just transplanted from on the other side of the yard to right here, so it can be right in line with the female pistachio tree. But as you can see, it's got a few unusually shaped branches. And so I'm going to cut those back quite a bit and maybe just tip off some of these other ones over here to help encourage some of those to grow. This one really grew a lot. I think most of this was just from this past year's growth. A few of them grew a lot and a few of them didn't grow much at all. So I don't know exactly what that means. But I'm going to trim this branch right here to right about here, because that little bud right there will go up in this direction, hopefully. And then this one I'm going to cut right about here with a bud facing up. Same thing with this one down here. This is one I'm just going to take off because I think it's pretty much dead. Same with one that's down here. Oh, actually, these two right here are right above each other. They're literally parallel, right on top of the other. And so I'm going to take the top one off because the bottom one I think looks a little healthier. There we go. Oh, here's this one. There we go. That one was a short one. Oh, one more down here. See if I can get this one off without hurting the one below it. There. Perfect. All right, well then that one's done and it looks a lot better. Yeah. And here is my female pistachio. And it did not grow nearly as much as the male pistachio. But of course the description that I got says that it is a slow grower. So maybe it's more slow growing even than the male pistachio. So I certainly don't want to cut this too much. This is the leader, the central leader right here, and I'm just going to leave that this year. We'll see what it does, and if I want to do something with it next year, we'll see. But it looks like it grew this much, just a couple of inches this year, and this looks like last year's growth, and then the year before, the first year right here. So yeah, it's a slow grower. I think what I plan to do is just to tip off a few of these, not even all of them, just to tip a few of these little lateral branches to see how that does. See if it actually encourages them to grow more than the other branches. And then maybe next year, if it does, I'll cut a little more. This one down here looks like it has grown more than others, which is interesting. So I think I'm just going to just do a little tip of this one, but I want I want this bud right here. So I'm going to tip it right there, just like that, so that that bud grows more up. Same thing with this one here, so that that bud grows. And then let's see, down here, I think I'm going to take the tip of this one to this bud, which is going this way. This branch, I don't know if you can see this anymore, this branch is kind of growing in the back. And so I kind of want to encourage this little bud right here so that it grows this way more. This one I'm not even going to touch because it has another mantis egg pod on there, another mantis egg set, so I'm just going to leave that. This one here grew the most. Let's see, what do I want to do with that? I'm thinking I just want to take the tip off again, but down to this little bud right here that'll go out. Actually, nope, this one. This bud right here will grow out this way. And this, I don't know if you can see down here, is the graft area. Let me make sure you can see that. Okay, I kind of zoomed in a little bit. This area right here is the graft area. At least I think. Yes. So this is the root stock, and then they cut it right here and grafted the female in right there in that area. And so all of this is from that. But I'm looking forward to seeing how much she grows this time. I don't know that I can expect any pistachios this year, but if she even just grows a little bit, I'll be happy. Hey, buddy. It's my Alex. And now here I am at the apple tree. And the apple tree, of course, is still a bit of a monster. It's a lot more pruning that I want to make you endure today. But I do have a section already marked out from the other day that I'll talk a little bit about. First of all, it didn't even mark it, but I can see this branch right here is completely dead. So I'm just going to take that one off right now. And right behind it is a new little one that is quite alive. So we like that. And it's still having a lot of interesting shapes in this tree. And so here's two branches that are really close together. And so I think I'm going to take this small one here in a thinning cut so that this one is more focused on. And this one is, it's going straight up. And so I'd like to encourage it to kind of come out this way. And actually, I think I'm going to change my mind about what I did. I put a little blue sticker here, so I trimmed there and encourage these to bud. But I think I'm going to take it a little lower because it's really parallel with this one right here. So this, I'm not sure if this is even a good bud right here. I can't tell because it's kind of right on. No, I think it was trimmed at that point, and this is the bud that it grew out of. So I think I'm going to trim it right about here and encourage this bud to grow out that way. With my luck, it'll go straight up again, but that's okay. We'll see how it goes. And then this one right here is a small one, and I'm going to trim it right about here to this bud so that that bud grows out a little away from the other branch. Now these are great scions for apples, but I don't think I can share them because I don't know exactly what kind they are, so I can't really label them. I could try to bring them and just say, I don't know, but I think they might be Fuji's, but I probably won't. So we'll see. Maybe I'll bring them and ask somebody's advice. Now this branch right here, you might be able to see this tag and this pink right here. This is where I grafted last year. And I grafted like 4 or 5 things, and this was the only one that took. And I'm so excited to see that it's still doing well, and it's got buds that are just ready to burst, so that's exciting. And what else is interesting is it's the only part of the tree left with any leaves on it. So this is a pink lady graft right here. And so my guess is that pink ladies either don't lose their leaves in the wintertime or they just lose them a lot later. And so it's end of January and those leaves still haven't gone. So I just think it's interesting to see that one branch with leaves, but the rest of it doesn't have leaves. But I am going to prune this one branch. So I have a little marker here, and I decided I'm going to prune it right to there so that this bud and these back here are encouraged to grow, and this bud will grow out this way. If it keeps going this way, it's going to get in the way of that tiki bar and the other stuff that's right there. So I'm going to try and encourage it to go this way. So I'm going to prune it right here. There we go. There, nice. And so that's my graft, and hopefully, oh, and there's a little dead piece. Let's get that piece off. Boop. And here's another one. Get that off. Boop. All right, and now it's got 3 good laterals going, and hopefully a couple more will grow, and these laterals will keep growing. Oh, and now Alex is climbing the tree. Good job. Okay, let's see. Was there anything else that I marked over here? No, I think that's it, and I think that's all I'm going to share with you about the apple tree. If I do more pruning of this, it'll probably be next week. But otherwise, it gave me a lot of great apples in the fall, so it's a good tree. I'm loving it. Here we are out front, and this is my fig tree. And it's only got 5 branches total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm not going to do a lot with this one. But I would love to see it create some more laterals. And so maybe I'm just going to do some tipping on this to encourage some laterals down at the bottom. This branch right here, you can see right here where it got trimmed. That's where I tried to do a graft, and the graft didn't work. But it was nice to me and grew another branch. So that branch is still good. All right, let's see. I think I'm going to leave this one alone and see if it grows a little more. Same with this other short one. But these 3 big ones, I think I want to tip them in hopes that the buds underneath them will grow and make a bunch of laterals all the way down. I'm also pruning my grapes. Now, I don't know as much about pruning grapes, but I'm assuming all of the same principles apply. And I have heard that you're supposed to cut them pretty far back in the wintertime, and then they just get all new growth the next year. So I have this trellis, and I'm going to be building a new trellis that's going to be an arch, and so I want to encourage all the growth to go that way. So I'm going to be looking for buds that are going to be going up and towards this trellis here. So that's what I'm looking for. But these look good, and I think I can share the grape scions as well. I'm not positive, but I think so. There we go. And this one didn't do a lot of growing last year, and I'm hesitant to cut it too much, so I don't think I'm going to do too much to it, except for maybe thin out some of the inner branches and cut off any dead stuff. So here's a couple of dead things right down here. I'm just going to get rid of those. And there's a dead one right there. And right next to it is one that a couple of them that I don't think are going to get much light at all. And so I think I'm just going to trim those so that the tree's energies can go elsewhere. Some of these other little ones that are deep inside, I think I'm going to cut. That one. This one right here I think is going to get sun no matter what because it's south facing. So I think I'm going to leave that, but maybe just a couple more of these tiny things here. Or I think I'll leave that. You never know. Maybe those are going to be almonds. That'd be great. Now what's this over here? This one, no, that looks okay. I think I'm going to leave that there. And I think that's probably about all I'm going to do with this one. I don't want to do too much. I'd like to see it grow some more. All right, so this is the last one I'll share with you. This is my California hazelnut, my native California hazelnut, and I actually have 2 of them so that they can fertilize each other. I'm not going to do anything with the other one. It's much smaller. But this one is going pretty well, and so I want to trim it back and encourage it to grow in different ways. So I feel like this one is just getting a little too tall, so I think I'm going to trim it right to this bud, this lateral right here. There we go. And this one looks like it's kind of not doing well up at the top, so I think I want to trim it back down here to a bud that's looking better. So I think to right about there. This will be the central leader right there. This one, same thing. Well, no, these are doing good, but I think I want to turn it back to here. And this one is looking kind of dead up here. I want to encourage this one to grow. So let's prune it to right. Actually, no, I want it there so that this little bud comes out this way. These guys, let's prune those back. This one's not looking good at all. I'm just going to trim that one off. And then it's got a lot of suckers down at the bottom, so I'm probably going to thin those out. But otherwise, I think that's it. That's all I'm going to do with this one. It's got some good buds coming. I can't wait to see how it does this year. All right, let's go inside and see what else I got ready to go for the sign exchange. Well, yay! I think I'm just about done with my pruning. So I think I still have a little more in terms of raspberries and other plants, just trimming off some dead things and stuff. But really, I think I've got all the trees done, and that is really exciting for me. And I've got all of my little packets ready for the scion exchange tomorrow. We'll see if I actually get to share anything. We'll see if I've obeyed all the rules and everything looks good. So some people might want some of my scions, while I might take some other scions too. So I'm looking forward to that. And as I was pruning, I was kind of thinking how pruning trees is a bit of a metaphor for life too. A bit of a metaphor for our own growth in our lives. I feel like pruning can be a little painful for the tree. And the trees thought, man, I've been growing all this time, and now you're just going to cut off things that I've worked hard to grow. And sometimes things like that happen in our own lives, and especially in the last couple of years. So many people have been struggling and trying to overcome adversity and struggles, and it feels like sometimes that we're being pruned, doesn't it? It feels like we are having a lot of pain in our lives, and it just shouldn't happen. But I think that's kind of part of God's plan, is that we have these struggles and these pains in our lives and these things that we have to work to overcome. And it's kind of like pruning, and it encourages growth in us. It encourages us to grow in different ways. And so I like thinking about pruning in that way and having it work in my own life as a way for my own growth, so that struggles don't seem so pointless, so that struggles and hardships have a purpose, that we're here to learn and to grow, and those are all a part of it. And so thank you for sharing this time with me today and yesterday. I'm so grateful that you guys are coming to visit still. And I hope that things are going well. And soon in the garden, hopefully we will have some flowers and some bees and some other beautiful signs of spring. And when that comes, we'll see what else happens in the garden. And I look forward to sharing all of that with you too. Thanks so much. You guys take care and God bless.